They were very expensive.
Yeah.
But you probably know as well as I do, when you're in active addiction, I had the attitude like I was working hard, like you said, I was still working. I was burning through cash, but I was like, I'll deal with it later. You know what I mean? I'm fine. I'm gonna stop eventually on my own, and I'll fix this. But right now, I needed them. I was like, I need this now, and that's all that matters. My worst, I was spending close to $500-600 a day sometimes.
Jeez, a day? I thought you were going to say a week, and that would have baffled me.
No,
Wow.
I don't know. They were very expensive.
Yeah.
But you probably know as well as I do, when you're in active addiction. Pulled up to my house, I noticed there were some cars, that I knew, family members and stuff. And I came in my back door, and in my living room, there was, circle of people.
Intervention.
Who love me. Exactly, man. The intervention, right? So my wife, my mother-in-law, my mom, my sister, my dad, and a really close family friend who's also a recovered addict, who kind of led the intervention.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everybody, thanks again for watching this episode. I just want to let you know that this episode is also brought to you by Megan Haynes Counseling. She is licensed in Oregon, and Megan Haynes focuses on trauma, substance use, EMDR therapy. Megan Haynes also does recovery coaching, one-on-one, and it's also flexible to anyone, anywhere. And this part includes free guides, Sober Curious, and 7-day gray area reset. Definitely worth checking out. You can find it on her website or go on her Instagram at Megan J. Haynes. She's also offering a 12-week sobriety and recovery program for women. It's individual and group, and this info could also be found on her Instagram. I will pop it up on the screen here so you can go reach her. She's a really credible person. If you want to see her story, she is on a recent episode. Definitely check her out. We're working with Megan Haynes because she's been in recovery. She is over 3 years sober. She understands what it takes to get sober, and she understands what it's like to be at a rock bottom and have to make all those necessary changes. And now she's helping people crawl out of that rock bottom and build on it and build a foundation for the future. So please check her out, Megan J. Haynes on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching the show, and have a great day. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. Here with my guest today, AJ. AJ, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really happy to have you on here today. I've been looking forward to interviewing you, and Rachel couldn't make it for work reasons, but we'll miss her, and shout out to Rachel if she watches this. And so as you know, we talk a lot about recovery on here and mental health and all that, and I see some of the information I've heard about you. I want to hear about the coaching you're doing and that you're into fitness and nutrition and all that stuff. But first and foremost, do you have a sober date? What is it? And then what was your drink or drug of choice? Where are you from? All that stuff.
All right. First of all, my sober date is October 12th, 2024. So just shy of 2 years now. I'm getting there. My drug of choice with opioids, mainly Oxycontins. And I'm from St. George, originally from Cambridge, but moved to St. George, Ontario, in Ontario, Canada here.
Okay. Shout out your sober date one more time. I didn't hear that.
It's October 12th, 2024.
Okay. So you're going on a couple of years here in like 5 months. Cool.
Yep.
Or 4 months. Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome. I just hit 20 months last week, so I'm getting there. So
congratulations. That's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's awesome. So so it looks like I'm only 14 days behind you, it sounds like. Yeah, that's crazy. So did you, I guess we'll find out about that later, but take me into like, what was life like growing up? Did you grow up in Ontario? Was your parents together, all that stuff, or what was that like?
Yeah, I was born in Cambridge, Ontario, in the Cambridge Hospital. Mom and dad raised me together. They're still together. I mean, from what I remember, I would say, or what I thought was a pretty normal childhood. But as I go through, what I've been going through lately and really unpacking everything, you look back on your childhood and there were probably some things that weren't considered I don't like to use the word normal, but you know what I mean? Like maybe some things that, you know, it
More
kind of
healthy or whatever.
yeah, exactly. Put you where you were. Yeah, my parents were great in a sense. They would do anything for me. They would, you know, very supportive, very encouraging, almost too encouraging sometimes. There was a lot of pressure on me to do well in school, athletics, basically anything. You know what I mean? There was something that there was to do. My mom wanted me to do it, and it was like do it 110% all the time. There was not a
Yeah.
lot of downtime as a kid.
Okay, so it's just always busy and extracurriculars on top of homework and getting your schoolwork done and all that. So
Exactly, man. Whether it was, you know,
yeah,
travel, hockey, soccer, about pretty much any sport you think of, and then all the extracurriculars on top of that. Anything, man. I was doing it. There was after school, we
wow,
were always gone. I was rarely ever at home.
wow. Okay, well, when what sports were your main sports so that you were best at or that you applied yourself to the most? I'm just curious.
Hockey was definitely my number one. I did that year round, played all winter pretty seriously, and then did camps in the summer. And then in the summer, I also played a lot of rep and, you know, travel soccer. So I'd say those are my two main sports. But in high school, yeah, I played football, rugby, everything, anything you think of.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I was into soccer and baseball, but hockey just wasn't so big in the Seattle area and the Idaho area where I grew up. So it's just,
Sure.
but I always like watching hockey though. So, so what, take me into like, what was your first experience drinking or using? Was it marijuana or alcohol, or what was your first experience using any kind of substance?
Well, my first experience with alcohol was actually accidental. It was definitely accidental. I was really young. I was at a wedding, and my mom's best friend, who's actually my godmother, her son, he's a lot older than me. And he actually, he got me to drink a little bit of wine. And I think I was only at the time like 8 or 9. I was young, like 8 or 9 years old. Again, it wasn't like anything serious, a couple sips, but at that age, I definitely felt the effects. And I remembered it, man. It was like, you know, woo.
Yeah.
But then I would say my next early in high school, like grade 9, 14 years old, started, you know, drinking beers, hard alcohol at parties, stuff like that, and started smoking marijuana. And yeah, I would say early grade 9. And that's when, yeah, my first use of drugs was.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, ninth grade. I think my first marijuana use was around then too. And like, so you're still applying yourself as a student, but you used here and there. And like, did it turn into like a habit, or did you kind of slowly just evolve?
No, you know what, man? Yeah, it's almost like I lived a double life. I was still always good in school. I still did all my sports and showed up, but you know, in the background, you know, I was smoking weed with my buddies and drinking booze at parties, chasing girls. You know, it's basically like living a double life.
Did your friend group change at all, or is it kind of the same? Everybody was just kind of playing sports, doing their homework, but still smoking weed on the side and stuff and all
Honestly,
that,
man,
or
I've been one of my traits is I've been such a people pleaser my whole life. I've had so many different groups of friends. It's not like I had like one group of friends. Like I had these
yeah,
friends here, these friends over here, and I was like a chameleon. You know,
that
I would
sounds
fit
like me. Oh my
I
gosh.
would fit in with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I would be hanging out with like, the stoner crew or whatever, like the punk crew and all that, and then next thing you know, I'm hanging out with the jocks and the preps and all that, and it's like I never made any sense to myself. If I look back, I'm like, who was I? I was definitely a chameleon in high school and stuff.
Yeah,
I
no,
just got along with everybody. So,
sounds
yeah.
exactly like me, man.
Yeah, it's a good quality to have in a lot of ways, but in the other ways, it's kind of like you don't really find your place sometimes either. For, at least in my case, so it's like I never knew where I fit in, so I just kind of evolved to everything. So I don't know, but
Yeah,
so take me into like, did you go to college after high school?
yeah. So after grade 12, so I did 4 years in high school. Really wanted to come back for a fifth year just to play football. But at that time, I had a little bit of pressure from my mom to go to university. I can go get an engineering degree. So you know, I applied to a bunch of schools, and my grades were good enough. I got into school. I got into the University of Toronto for engineering. But when I got there, I like I did I in my heart I truly didn't want to be there. I only lasted 4 months before I got kicked out. I rarely went to class. I drank heavily. It was downtown Toronto, so there was something going on every night. There was a bar, had a fake ID at the time, bars, girls, parties. Just for 4 months, I pretty much went to school to party, and then
Yeah.
got kicked out. Yeah.
Wow. So, all right. So, like, when you got there, it's kind of like myself. There's a lot of things that are kind of a lot of parallels here, but I wanted to go to community college out of high school so I could kind of figure out my way before going to university. And then I had some pressure from my parents to go to university. They're like, no, only, stupid kids that don't have a future go to community college. And I'm like, no, some people go to community college and they transfer after a couple of years after they get their prereqs done and they figure out what they want to do. And I knew kind of what I wanted to do. I just wasn't ready for the college life yet. I didn't really drink much in high school or party hard. So soon as I went there, like my freshman year, to a college town, straight up college town, only students everywhere. And, I immediately was drinking my butt off. I drank more in the first week there than I did all of high school. And it was just off to the races. So it's like releasing somebody out to the wild, it's
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
it was your first like real sense of freedom, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you kind of got into that too, and the grades kind of slipped a little bit. And when did you leave college?
It would have been just before so I would have enrolled in school in September, and I was back home before Christmas that year. So the early December, bags were packed, dorm room was empty, and I was moving back home. So, but at that
Okay.
point, I had a plan already. I wanted to get an apprenticeship in the trade, right? I wanted to get my electrical ticket, which is what I did. Yeah, now I run my own electrical business too. So,
Awesome.
it is
Awesome. That was
possible
my
to
next.
make something of yourself without going to school, right? So,
It's so possible. Like, it's just not like, a couple generations ago or college or nothing, and now it's like you can become successful in so many ways. If you have a dream, you can own a business, you can do anything, it doesn't require college like a lot of people think. Some of the other generations are kind of closed-minded in that sense, I think. So
oh man,
like I don't do anything that relates to my major anyways, so it's like I don't know. But so like when you went to trade school, you became an electrician. I'm assuming you worked under somebody for a while and then you started your own business recently. But how did drugs come into the mix and when?
all right, yeah.
Let's
So,
hear this. This is the big part. Yeah.
yeah, like I said, now that I look back on everything, I should have always known that I have a very addictive personality. When I do something and I find something that I like, I really like it, good or bad. I mean, like I said, if I'm doing sports, I like them. I'm doing them every day. I'm working out, I'm doing it every day. So it was the same with when I got into drinking and drugs. I probably overdid it a lot, but nothing ever really grabbed a hold of me too bad. It wasn't until 2018 my body I had to have five pretty major surgeries, not major, but big surgeries on two on my right shoulder. One was reconstructive, one on my left rotator cuff, and then two on my right knee. And I was prescribed some pain medication, which were Percocets at the time, and I was under the knife, like I said, 5 times in 4 years. So there wasn't really a lot of downtime. I was just getting prescribed these things nonstop almost. So
So it started with surgery, it started with injuries and stuff like
yeah,
that.
my
Yeah.
my 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 opioid use definitely didn't start because I was, out looking for, something new. It was due to surgeries, but I'll never forget the first perk that I ever took. And I remember the feeling sitting in my bed watching a movie, and I was just like, man, I like this. This is everything felt warm and fuzzy, and I just felt
Yeah.
like I was cloud nine, man.
Yeah, no, just all the worries went away and all that stuff. It was just
It
in love at
like
first sight, basically.
Yeah, you just said it right away. Any stress or anything I was worried about, I did not give a care about, in that time. You know what I mean? It all went away.
That's fortunate. I mean, I have an addictive personality too, and it was mostly to uppers. Like cocaine was a big part of my life for a long time. And I did attempt to take perks and oxy before, and both times for some reason my body just rejected them and I got sick. And so I never touch them ever again. It was just wasn't my thing. But I know if I did enjoy it, I know I probably would be, probably dead right now if I really got into it. But I'm just fortunate that somehow my body did not take to painkillers very well, so I didn't
Yeah,
have
man,
that.
you're very fortunate
So
there,
how
man.
did it? So starting to take them, having that feeling, how did it progress? Like you started overtaking your prescription, or did you go through your bottle quicker, and then it turned into a problem, or how did it escalate?
Yeah, like I said, I started taking more, like the recommended dose on the bottle.
You had that first Percocet, and you felt it. How did it progress from there? Like as far as like going through your prescription quicker, or what? When did you start to kind of like get out of hand?
Yeah, I mean, right away, within the first prescription, I remember I was taking more than I should have been taking, right? And at that point, I knew guys already that I'd played hockey with growing up, guys I'd play minor hockey with, junior hockey with, that would had these things, you know what I mean? I was burning through my prescription like it was, supposed to last me a month. I was getting through it in less than a week. You know what I mean? So I had to find them elsewhere, which I did. So I reached out to my buddies that I was playing hockey with, and now I started purchasing them, which is when it really started to go downhill.
Wow. So you'd go through a whole month supply within.
Yeah, like no problem. You're supposed to take, 1 to 2 pills every 4 to 6 hours. I was taking double, triple that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like once I got that warm, fuzzy feeling, if I felt it even dim a little bit, I was like, I needed more to keep it going.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I was pretty much how I was with alcohol too. So just needed to keep on doing it. So like so you'd run out and you started to find it on the streets. Were you still able to were you still functioning work wise and all that? Or were you kind of
That was the scary thing about my opioid use. Nobody knew. I mean, aside from the guys I was buying them from, maybe a couple close buddies knew I was taking them, but not to the extent, the extreme that it was. Right, I was a fully functioning opioid addict. I was hiding it from my wife, family. Nobody knew. I was honestly high from the time I woke up it was the first thing I did in the morning before I did anything else. I'd wake up out of bed, find my pill bottle, take a couple to get my day started. You know what I mean? So I was high from the time I got up until the time I went to bed at night. And nobody knew, I was still present as a father, still present as it was such a scary addiction because it didn't, I know with a lot of people's addictions, they tend to isolate or they go inward. Not mine wasn't. Like I was still being me.
Mhm.
I was just feeling warm and fuzzy all the time. You know what I mean?
Does it like looking back at it, does it feel like you were in a fog most of it? Or do you remember, do you feel like you're present enough to remember everything?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I remember a lot of painful memories too. Now that I think about it, because I'm sure this. Like when you do get sober and you think back on a lot of your memories, maybe some of your using, I feel a lot of shame, man, a lot of guilt, even embarrassment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there were some red flags. You asked about my work. I work hard. I've always worked hard. I've worked long days. So, my wife did start to notice certain times. I would doze off. At certain times, I would start to get sleepy and start to want to go to bed at weird times. And she just always chalked it up to me being tired from work, right? So there was always a fallback. There was always some wiggle room or whatever you want to call it for me to keep doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Okay. So she gradually did, she might have seen some red flags, but not enough to be accusatory or think that you needed help or something, just because you were still functional, but you were working hard, which is always a good scapegoat kind of thing, so.
Yeah. And she always trusted me so much with our money that she was never looking at the amounts I was, taking out to buy these things. Right. So
how much do you think you were starting to spend at your worst?
I mean, I said, I'm open to talking about it. My worst, I was spending close to $500-600 a day sometimes.
Jeez, a day? I thought you were going to say a week, and that would have baffled me.
No,
Wow.
I don't know. They were very expensive.
Yeah.
But you probably know as well as I do, when you're in active addiction, I had the attitude, like I was working hard, like you said, I was still working. I was burning through cash, but I was like, I'll deal with it later. You know what I mean? I'm fine. I'm going to stop eventually on my own and I'll fix this. But right now I needed them, you know. I was like, I need this now, and that's all that matters.
Were you suffering from like withdrawal symptoms when you woke up in the morning before you took them?
No, because I mean, before I went to bed, I made sure I'd take some, and then I'd wake up and it was the first thing I did. So I never really gave my chance to withdraw.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of times where I did run out and I couldn't get my hands on the one, you know, what I needed right away. And I definitely went into opioid withdrawal a few times. And I'll tell you, man, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And
I've heard it's a nightmare. Yeah.
it's the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my entire life.
Jeez. Did anybody witness you go through that? Your wife or anything? Or
Yeah, she saw me in withdrawal when she finally knew and I was trying to come off of them. She saw me in withdrawal one time really bad, scared the shit out of her. Yeah, anyone else see? Nobody else really saw me withdrawal except for people at the hospital.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
suffered from alcohol withdrawal quite a few times, and that was scarier than heck. And I know the withdrawals in general are just dangerous. But so, like, when did it? Were there any like instances or things that happened? I mean, you're buying these things illegally and stuff. Did you ever get in any trouble, or you're pretty good at avoiding any kind of legal trouble and stuff during that?
Yeah, never got myself into any legal trouble. Legal troubles. Knock on wood. But this is, you know, the crazy thing about the addiction was I I was so at the time, I was actually doing some work in the United States too. I did some big battery work for a company in the US for a bit, and I was traveling to the US. They sent me to Israel, and I was literally packing these things in my bag. Not like a crazy enormous amount, like I was smuggling anything, but I would put them in an old prescription bottle, throw them in my carry-on, and just hope for the best. And luckily, you know, I never got jammed at the border.
Wow.
But that's how, excuse me, you know, that's how fucking crazy I
Yeah,
was.
just taking
And
risks.
how badly I needed them because I'm like, I can't go unless I have these things.
Yeah, you thought you were untouchable. Like I did that, and like when I went to Mexico, just bought a bunch of Xanax bars and stuff, and came back with them, and thought nothing of it. So it's the things we do, and we're in addiction. We think we're untouchable.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, when did it get to like, when did it hit that point where you're like, this needs to change. I need to quit. Did somebody have an intervention? Were you going through withdrawal? Were you just, did you have some kind of like rock bottom moment? What happened?
Yeah, there was a couple different instances. The first time I was actually doing again with the battery work, I was doing a job out east in Eastern Canada. So I was, you know, hotel away from the family, and my wife and my son and my mother-in-law came to visit me there. And the one night I got up in the middle of the night and I was feeling probably in my head, maybe feeling a little bit withdrawally or whatever. So I got up in the middle of the night, I grabbed my bottle and I went to take one, and I thought my wife was out cold sleeping, and she heard the bottle, and she said to me, what did you just take? And I immediately got defensive, went into lying mode, right? It was allergy pill, Tylenol, whatever it was, right? And I was lying through my teeth, and she obviously didn't believe me, but didn't make a big thing about it. She, you know, she rolled over, went back to sleep. Not to sleep, but she was laying there, and I could just feel like, and I'm sitting there, and at this point, I'm like, I already knew for years I had a problem. I just didn't know how to stop, and I didn't know who to ask, right? I just wanted to do it on myself or by myself and not get anyone else involved, right? I could do this on my own.
Yeah.
So
Seemed like you're a pretty
laying in bed,
independent guy altogether. So
yeah, so
Yeah.
we're just laying in bed there, and I'm just like in my head battling, like, this is it. You know, this is your chance. This is your opportunity to, to tell her, and she can help you, man. She's your wife, dude. Like, she's not gonna be happy, but she's gonna help you, right? So I told her, and you know, my mother-in-law and my son are sleeping in the same room. So we're talking and whispering back and forth, but you know, she's super upset, but she doesn't even know the extent of like oxys or perks, right?
Yeah.
She's naive to.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, well, just, you know, you'll stop and it'll be good. But that was the first time.
Yeah.
So after that, you know,
How many
we got
years
home.
had you been, sorry to cut you off, but how many years had you been, would you say it had been a problem at that point?
4 to 5 years now already.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I was just curious.
Yeah, I did it for a while, man, without people knowing,
Wow.
right? So
Wow. All right. Take me into
Yeah.
the next time. What happened?
yeah, so then when we got home, I went down to the addictions clinic, got put on a medication called Suboxone. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not. There's like methadone, Suboxone, and I thought that was my cure. You know, I'm like, if I can just dial in the physical withdrawals, I'll be fine. I'll be kick this no problem. So I got on the Suboxone. I started going to meetings, AA meetings, NA meetings, just trying to get the help I needed, the support I needed to beat this thing. So I started the medication, and that lasted for about a week. And then I just, at that point, I had realized it was more than just physical. It was so much up in my head, and I was just urgent, craving. I missed that warm, fuzzy feeling. So I went out and I started buying them again, and lying to everybody in the meetings. I was collecting chips in NA and lying about it to people. Hey, I'm a month sober. Not even close. You know what I mean, man? I was
Yeah.
lying to my wife, lying to my family, lying to myself, really, dude. It was, it was back full fledged. It wasn't a lapse. I had basically relapsed. I was back at it full force.
Okay.
So then I went away to work again, North Carolina. And when I had come home, my dad picked me up at the airport that time instead of my wife. And he drove me home, and he was unusually quiet this time, didn't say much.
Mm-hmm.
And as we pulled up to my house, I noticed there were some cars, that I knew, family members and stuff. And I came in my back door, and in my living room, there was, circle of people
Intervention.
who love me. Exactly, man. The intervention, right? So my wife, my mother-in-law, my mom, my sister, my dad, and a really close family friend who's also a recovered addict, who kind of led the intervention. They're really close. Yeah, he's not my uncle, but I'll call him my uncle, right? He's in the family. And yeah, that's when they all said their piece. And I sat there with my head down. I didn't get defensive. I didn't argue with anyone. I knew they were all right. And that's when they said, you gotta go to rehab. So yeah.
And you accepted that, and you're kind of like, you weren't risking, worried about your career, like risking your career in that sense. Because I know a lot of people that are still working, they're always like, I don't want to go to rehab. I have a job. I have to take care of my family. Like, did you have any of those arguments in your head? Or
100%, man.
Yeah.
All that, exactly everything you just said went off in my head. Well, for one, I run my own business, right? So I'm like, who's going to run the business while I'm away for 6 weeks? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to do the bank? All the shit that really, truly, it matters, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? My health, my family, my marriage, all this stuff is on the line. And as an addict, like, I'm thinking of like all the other outside noise that,
Yeah.
truly, so. But yeah, it was definitely a battle in my head. But I had accepted. I said, yeah, I'll go. And I was good with it the whole way. I went up to Huntsville in Ontario here. It's about 3 hours north of where I'm from. And it was through my work too, like my electrical union. So
Okay.
I went up there. There was a bunch of trades guys too. So it was a really good rehab. But I'll never forget driving up there with my wife. I was good the whole way until we got about 15, 20 minutes out, and just panic, like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go,
Yeah,
So
it's scary, like going away that long, and especially having kids and your wife, just, knowing that you're going to be in a whole different world for 45 days. It's pretty scary. So
Yeah.
No, I totally understand. So what was it like in like the early days in treatment? Did you detox and all that? Was that difficult? And how did you?
Yeah. So when I went to rehab, I was on another, like, I was already on a prescription of Suboxone.
Okay.
So I didn't really have to detox too much. Just had to make sure I was taking my daily dose of Suboxone, which they set up, in the rehab. So you can take it once daily. It's, it's a controlled substance, all that kind of good stuff, right? So the first few days, though, I'll tell you right now, rehab was one of the best decisions I ever made to do, to go. Because again, like we talked about earlier, like making groups of friends, me and a people pleaser, like all the guys there. It was like, I went in the summer. It was super nice out. The weather was great. All the guys were super nice. The counselors were super nice. I took a lot away from it and came out. Yeah, I mean, it was 35 days of working on myself. No responsibility, like I couldn't have a phone in there, no cell phone. I could call home to my wife once a day, but you literally are detached from the outside world, and you can literally just concentrate on working on yourself, which was really what I needed.
Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, that's why it does work. Because when I was in there, when they took away my phone and all that, and I was just reliant on that, just all the things and all the people I communicated with. But it was like, all right, no, I needed that kind of discipline. I needed that, time where all day when you're in rehab, it's like class after class after class after counseling. And it's like, as long as that's your focus, it's, it's a lot poured into you all at once for, a small period of time. So you might as well focus, right? So, yeah. So you came out, feeling a lot better? And what were early days outside like? Did you ever go through any moments of, hey, I can just go out and buy it again and, go back to it? Or did you ever have any moments like that? Or you came out just very determined?
Well, no, I mean, being in there and coming out, like, feeling refreshed, feeling, like you said, determined, like I got this. But I wish that was the case the whole time. But no, I came out and I definitely had a few stumbles out of the gate. I got out in June. It's crazy. I actually got out on my 10th wedding anniversary. The day I graduated rehab was my 10th wedding anniversary. My wife picked me up. We had the weekend up in Huntsville. It was a great time. I was feeling good. Came home and I was doing good for I think like a week or two. And then it's like you're not in that safe space anymore. You're not working on yourself. All the reality came back and hit, right? Work, business, money, it just hit me. And yeah, I started sneaking them again. You know what I mean? Wasn't to the extent I was before. I was definitely being more sneaky about it, maybe more not, you know
Kind
what
of
I mean? Like
moderating a little bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would call it a lapse for sure, but even close to a relapse, right?
How
But
were you doing any work like on yourself, like going to meetings or anything like that, or just kind of came out to the real
yeah,
world and doing your thing?
yeah, no, I came out to the real world, and that's the thing. The meetings are great. I do love them, but I don't know. It wasn't enough to, I don't know how to put it. It just wasn't enough to keep me on track. It's like I said, once I got out of the rehab, it was back to the real world, and things felt different again. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh shit. So I managed to get on and off again from the end of June till, like I said, October 12th, which was my date. I remember talking to my wife about it, and we were up in our room, and I said to her, I'm like, this will be the last time. And I'm like, this will be the because in my head, I've always been such a competitive guy, like with sports and this and that. And I'm kicking myself right now. I'm like, why can't I beat this thing? Like I'm so competitive. I pride myself on that so much. It's like, why am I losing to this all the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was breaking her. I was killing her. She loves me so much. She cares about me so much. And I'm just putting her through hell,
Yeah.
lying to her, using on and off. She can't trust me. Right.
Hmm.
So I was just like, I told her, I'm like, this is the last time.
Hmm.
And this promise is not empty. I'm like, this is the last time. And since that date on October 12th, 2024, I have not touched an opioid.
Wow. And were you taking enough to suffer with withdrawal during that time, or was it pretty easy to quit?
Well, no, I mean, to this day, so I on the Suboxone treatment, right? So no physical withdrawals, right? So I started at a pretty heavy dose, and I'm proud to say that I'm down to like the smallest dose you can go to right now. So 2 years later, and I'm almost off of it completely.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure your wife's like, extremely happy. Your family's happy. And, did you have to kind of make any amends with her, like as far as like financially, because, spending all that money per day throughout the marriage, did that ever cause any friction, or do you mind me asking?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah,
Okay.
100%. Making amends all the time. I got to do it every day with her, but with other people too, right? I mean, you probably know as well as I do. There's people when you're suffering through addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to do this like with my coaching program now. It's not just you that's suffering, right? You're obliterating everybody
Yeah.
in your path, right? And it's people that care about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that love you. It's like you're hurting them more than you're hurting yourself. So
Exactly.
I'm trying to work on my amends all the time, man, especially with my wife, but other family members too, and other friends who were trying to be there for me. And I was,
Yeah. You're lost.
too.
And it takes a while to earn trust back, and it's a lifetime, job basically for the rest of our lives in recovery, is trying to get that respect back, one day at a time.
No, 100%, man. And like you said, it's a lifetime gig, right?
Yeah.
You're in it for life now, man.
Exactly. I mean, I was
So
hoping things would be perfect overnight, but that just doesn't work like that, so.
unrealistic. It's not realistic, right?
No, but take me into, you mentioned coaching. Take me into when you decided to start coaching and how that came about and what your specialty is and all that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I know everybody's everybody's situation or scenario is different, right? None of it, like mine's not the same as yours. And, everyone's addictions are different and everybody's journeys are different. But what I found in mine, late last year, you get online, you get on social media, see all this online coaching, this and that. And it's like, I've always been really into fitness. I've been into sports, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, the one day my wife and I were talking, it's like, I like to talk about, I mean, this helps me. Like when I openly talk about I hid it for so long. It's like now that I can be open about it, I find it keeps me accountable. It helps me helping others. So late last year, I follow this one guy on Instagram and he was talking about coaching programs and I checked it out. I'm like, and they're like, oh, you just have to have a niche and what you're good at, a problem you can solve. And I said, well, I'm definitely not a therapist. I'm not a doctor and I'm not even an addictions counselor, but I'm a guy who has lived it.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out for myself how to beat it. So if I can pass that knowledge on, coach and mentor other guys in the blueprint that worked for me and it works for them, why not? Right.
Yeah.
Like there's three things I really, really stress, especially with mine. It was being physically active because, as well as I do as being addicts, we love dopamine hits, right?
Yeah.
We love those quick fixes, right? And to me, nothing gives me a better fix than, like I said, either helping other addicts or working out.
Exactly. I love lifting. I injured my back 2 weeks ago, and I forced myself not. It wasn't lifting. I was helping somebody on a fence building job, and was lifting concrete, and threw my back out. And it took me out of the gym for a week and a half, and it got to the point where I was just like, "That's like my drug," And I finally got back the last 2 days, just light lifting, and I already feel better. Just because you get that rush and you get that, and those,
It clears
clears your head.
it clears your head,
Yeah.
dude, and you feel like I said, yeah, it gives you that hit you need for the day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You lift in the morning and you feel great. So I really stress fitness. It's like my number one.
Good. 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 Good.
And then I figured out, eating, right? I mean, if you eat like crap, you're going to feel like crap,
Yes.
right? So I'm not a fancy chef. All my stuff is very basic. I just try to give guys a little bit of guidance on, what to put in their body at what times of the day, like proteins, fat, carbs, and what's good for you, what's not for you, right? And then obviously, lastly, it's your mindset. Right. You have to have a strong mindset. If you don't have that dialed in and you're all over the place, again, as well as I do, you're probably more than likely to stray away from your path, the structure or plan that you're trying to follow. So
Accountability and discipline. I love those words that I see on your profile here, and that's all important. So
well, like, motivation fades, right? It's discipline that wins the race, right? So
exactly. Discipline is everything. I mean, even when I started this podcast 10 months ago, and I just told myself, I'm just going to kind of wing it. But I was like, in recovery, we can't just wing things, we got to find what we are into and just, go on it full force, and that's kind of what I did I just told myself, I'm going to release 3 episodes a week, no matter what, and
yeah,
I consider every episode I do with the guests, including yourself, a quality episode because it's a unique story, and every story I think will reach somebody out there. And that kept me motivated to be disciplined, and those kind of go hand in hand sometimes. It's like little things start to motivate you, it's like tomorrow you're going to work out because it's working for you, it's helping you. And whoever you're coaching right now probably is relying on you to be doing the same things as you're coaching. So I'm assuming that helps you too. So
100%, man. Accountability, right? Like if I'm going to coach and mentor guys in this stuff,
yeah.
I better be doing the same things, right?
Yeah. So like hypothetically, like if I came to you and said, hey, AJ, I really want you to, guide me and coach me and stuff, what are some of like the initial questions you'd ask right off the bat?
I mean, obviously, where you're at with your addiction. Are you still suffering through active addiction? Are you in the beginning of recovery? Similar to what you asked me, like, what's your thing? What's your deal? How long have you been struggling with it? Just try to get some initial background on what the person's been through or what they've been going through, right? Because everybody's situation is different. And that's the one thing about the coaching program too. I really stress to guys, I'm not here to take your money and sell programs. I need to talk to you first and ask these questions because I need to know if it's a good fit. Because
Yeah,
it's not a good fit for everybody. It's
exactly.
not for everybody. Like I said, everybody's journey.
Yeah, and you're going to
So
connect with a certain niche of people, and other people maybe would connect with somebody else a little better, and you can always, recommend others or whatever, and I'm sure. But
exactly.
like I notice looking at your, page, and I see that you coach tradesmen, so you specialize in like coaching tradesmen, guys who probably work in similar career as you, do you ever kind of come across this thing where a lot of people have gotten into opioids because of injury in your guys' field of work? Is that a thing? I'm just curious.
Oh, dude, it's insane. You go on construction, and that's I don't like I said, I do specify tradesmen at the top of my page, but I'm open to working with all men. But I just really wanted my niche to be a little bit specific because that's the background where I come from, and it's such a huge problem on job sites, construction sites,
Yeah.
guys. Yeah,
Injury,
and like
prescriptions.
they're used,
Yeah.
yeah, and prescriptions, selling them, buying them,
Yeah.
using them all day long, up in the lift or,
Yeah.
you know, when the boss isn't, yeah, it's a very serious problem, and it's been around for a long time too.
Yeah, that's why I think it's really cool that you do kind of put that on the top there, because there's a lot of guys out there that could be looking for coaching that work work as contractors or electricians or whatever that have been injured, became addicts and stuff, and they're going to want to talk to somebody who knows what's going on, what we're talking about, having a hands-on career and stuff. And it's like you put yourself under the pressure to keep going back to work, but I'm going to take those pills before I go back to work, and so I can work longer, and it just becomes a habit, I assume. So
Oh, it's a habit, man, and it's such an excuse, right? It's like, oh, if I'm gonna work extra long, I need to take, you know what I mean? I'm sore. You'll make up anything in your head to justify
yeah.
having to take the pills, right? So
Exactly. So you're doing the coaching, and I assume you're still working as you have your own electrician business and all that. So what's 24 hours like back then, and what is 24 hours like now?
oof, 24 hours back then, like I said, from the time I woke up, I was numb until the time I went to bed. I was doing it. I was running the business. I was being a dad and being a husband, doing all those things, but not fully present. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I wasn't there, 24 hours now. I feel good about myself. I'm honest about it. I'm open about it, like my to everybody. And that the big thing is I'm present. Like I'm fully there for my son. I'm fully there for my wife. I'm fully there for my career, my job, my employees, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot. It's busy, but I'm there for it. I'm fully present, and I'm really happy about that.
That's awesome. And so like, are you you wake up, do your own workout, go to work, come back, do some coaching? Is it kind of just all in kind of a structured day, or how does it go? How does it work?
Yeah, so like obviously being the boss of my own business kind of deal, the owner operator, there's times throughout the day where I'll be like, it's a good time to make a video, or it's a good time to, like, I have obviously my coaching business just started to really ramp up earlier this year in January. So I have a few clients, some are in the US, some are in Canada here. So it depends on time zones and all that kind of stuff. But I usually book half-hour calls whenever's convenient for them. You know what I mean? I like to make myself as available as possible for my clients,
Awesome.
because I do have the flexibility, right? Being my own kind of operator, my own business. So, and I have a great team on my guys for my electrical business. Been with me for a few years, very trustworthy guys. So, if I'm unavailable to be there, I know that they have my back.
That's awesome. Okay. A bunch of guys that you can rely on, and you can still focus on coaching, and doesn't feel like you're constantly multitasking.
Yeah, and honestly, the coaching is the way I feel it's like I love my business and I love my trade, and I'll always have it. But my heart right now is just going towards helping the guys that are struggling, right?
Yeah,
So
helping others in recovery to get to where you are in your recovery, and it keeps you sober too, right? So it kind of comes back around, keeps you accountable.
like you said,
Yeah,
accountable.
exactly.
I better not be preaching, and you know what I mean?
Exactly, preaching it and then doing something else, living a double life. So that's good that you're developing clientele. And do you generally do your marketing like through social media, or how do you acquire clientele?
Yeah, mostly just Instagram right now, man.
Awesome.
That's it. Instagram, and the odd time, I'll boost a post or something like that. But yeah, just strictly mostly organic content on Instagram.
That's awesome. And you're generally coaching them, not just like, what you're doing as far as like, keeping off of drugs or whatever their DOC is, but teaching them about fitness, teaching them like a nutrition plan if they ask, stuff like that. It goes pretty detailed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, full fitness plan, structured and tailored to the specific person. Like I said, not every plan is going to be the same because all this, lifting weights, you might be different than the next guy, right? And lifting weights is not for every guy, but just you still need to have some physical activity in your life. So
Yeah.
definitely a structured, tailored fitness plan to the specific person. And same with the nutrition, right? Like some plans work better for certain people and some don't, right? So we really kind of have to, that's why, like you said, to have the calls before, get to know the person, find out what they're all about. And then that way I can build the plan for them. And, we can really find out if it's a good fit and if my program is something that's going to work for them.
That's awesome. And then as you go, you can make adjustments as needed for that specific person. If something's working really well, continue that, adjust this and change that if you need to, take something out of it. Like there's just so many things you can do while somebody's progressing in their recovery. And how long does your program usually last with an individual client?
So right now I have two different options. I'm working on adding a third one right now. But right now I have a 10-week program and I also have a 12-week program, but I am working on adding, like I said, longer ones as well for guys who need longer time because like I said, everybody's different. 10 weeks might be good for somebody. Some people might need a few months to even to a year, So it's just stuff that's kind of evolving and I'm working on with a few people. So yeah, it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, just perfecting it as you go. I love it. So that's awesome. And I love how it says, lived it, beat it, let's go. It's just a very motivating statement. So can you shout out the best ways for people to reach you and look out if there are listeners out there, that are looking for a coach or just want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram handle,
recovery.from.addiction.with.aj. All right. I'll pop it up on the screen too for everybody. So awesome. And then that's the best way to reach you. Do you do Facebook or TikTok or anything like that?
Nope, it's strictly Instagram right now, but also I do have, if you want to check out my YouTube page as well, I do have a YouTube page that's starting.
Okay.
It's called the Sober Trades Academy. So you can check that out. It's called Sober Trades Academy. And if you're looking for any merchandise or anything like that, we're selling shirts on Etsy for support as well to get the guys in the trades to, fight this addiction thing, man, because we all got to support each other.
I love that. No, I love what you're doing and really grateful for what you're doing. I appreciate and respect anybody who's going out and trying to teach others, even whether it's in your trade or not, to help them through their recovery. Because some of those early days are really difficult, having a support system is huge. So that's awesome what you're doing. And so for our listeners out there, a couple closing questions. For our listeners out there still struggling or sober curious or early on in recovery, what advice would you give based on your experience?
Don't wait. That was my thing. I knew I had a problem for a long time. And I always, one of those guys who's, I'll deal with it later, or I'll start Monday, or I'll start next week. Don't wait. Don't let shame, guilt, or fear steer the wheel. Don't feel like you have to do this alone, and don't feel isolated because we all know as addicts, isolation is what they say, the devil's playground, right? So reach out for help. Don't be scared. The bravest, the most courageous thing you can do is reach out and get help because never feel like you're alone. There's so many people out there suffering with addiction. You would be super shocked. Like, just don't ever feel like you can't reach out for help.
Yeah, that's so true. I go to meetings on a regular basis and stuff, and some newcomers that come in and stuff, I always tell them, I give them my phone number. I'm like, this phone number, you actually can call it anytime, and I have to reiterate that sometimes because they'll disappear for like a month and be like, oh yeah, I went back out. And then they'll come back and I'll be like, all you had to do was call. And now once you're just a little more direct, people do reach out and it could save their lives, so everything makes a difference. So yeah, for everybody out there listening, like AJ said, reach out. Don't be afraid to DM him ready. It says on his profile, if you're ready to change, because, it could save your life and, it's a huge change to make. So thank you so much for being on the show and really appreciate it and being vulnerable and sharing your story. And it really means a lot. So thank you, AJ.
Honestly, Ryan, no, I really appreciate this and thank you for having me on, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. Honestly, thank you so much, Ryan. This was great. Like I said, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.